people won't get clean. They won't stop doing the things that are harming them or hurting them unless they're forced to. People talk about willpower, incentives, this and that. That's all butkus. It's garbage. There's only one universal motivator for change. One. And it's a combination of things, but it's one. It's pain, suffering, and loss. When you have enough pain, suffering, and loss, you will absolutely hit a precipice, and you will make that change. Not because you want to, not because it's better for you, not because you want to self-actualize, but because you're forced to. And that's how people who get better from drugs and alcohol or addictions or behaviors, they don't do it because it's good for them. They don't do it because it's going to make their life better. They do it because they're forced to. They don't have a choice. But once they get clean, once they get in control, once they get that perspective, even though it was very difficult and they had to sacrifice and go through the pain and suffering of that, they can eat. I always tell clients and patients, the ones that I treat for addiction, it's really, really easy. It's really, really hard to get clean and sober. It's super easy to stay clean and sober if you've done it the right way. Okay? And most people misconstrue that with, well, I quit for 2 days. That's, we're not there yet. You know, you're going to need a good 6 months to get a new lifestyle change started and to be in supportive services and what have you. Most people go through detox or rehab and they think it's over. I beat it. They haven't even started. They're just getting the initial phase of physical stabilization. Outpatient, what we do in here, this is the treatment part. This is where you come to get better and figure out what caused the problem and how to fix it and get support through that and so on. And then you got something even after here, which is 10 to 14 weeks on average. Then you got the aftercare. That's where you go and you work on the interpersonal stuff, maybe with therapy and talk therapy and that kind of stuff to help transition you in and for support and to build community resources and start your new lifestyle. That seems like an awful long commitment, right? That's like 1.5 years commitment to having your life back and to living prosperously and healthy the rest of your life. Seems like a small investment. If someone said, I will give you $1 if you give me $80 back, would you take that deal? Why not? Because that don't make any sense, right? But if I invest $1 and you're going to give me $80 back, do I like that deal? Yeah, I love that deal. That's fantastic. Sign me up all day. That's the deal you get when you get clean and sober. You're investing 1 year of your life for what? 80 years of the rest of your life. But people don't see it like that, right? Now you look at it and you're like, oh, wait a minute. That does kind of make sense. Then why not do it? Because it's hard and you're scared and you're afraid and you don't know what to do. That's the hard part. But when you're forced into getting clean and sober, there ain't a human being that's been through here in the last 20 years, and it's been 20 years, where I've done an exit interview and discharge summary, where that person who's been clean 40 days or longer has not told me that their life has significantly improved in all areas with their abstinence. There hasn't been one. So if there was any benefit to using drugs or behaviors outside of recreational use, I'm not talking about the chronic ill or the terminally ill or those types of things. Like I said, it has its purpose for those extraneous variables, those exceptions. Talking about in general, not one person has ever said, you know what? Marijuana made me a better person before I got clean and sober, and I think I should go back to it. Or alcohol, or drugs, or I've never hear people that were addicted to crack say, yeah, you know what, crack made my life so much better that I'm going to go back to it. I appreciate all this, but crack was for me. There are people that will go back, but not because it's better for them. Does that make sense? Because they drop out of treatment, or they get back to open, or they don't follow through with the obligations of what got them clean and sober. So it's a lifestyle change that needs to occur, and life is a process of learning coping skills. It's learning how to better your life, learning how and what to do to make life not just comfortable, but exceptional, pleasurable, content. You can get there. It's not, I know we're struggling so hard to just, pay for groceries that it seems impossible, and I think that's by design. But in general, if you work hard enough and sacrificed and learned enough, you could come to a level of life that's quite enjoyable and very fulfilling and very prosperous. And when you're at that level, for any period of time, trust me, you don't ever want to give that up. You'll fight with your life for it. Does that make sense? But until you know it exists, why would you? Do you see where I'm getting at? I grew up really hard and poor and all kinds of things. So I never knew that this contentment and peace of mind existed. So why would I fight for that? Does that make sense? Because I never knew. So it took me struggles and struggles to learn that you can sleep on a bed, that you can have a shelter, that you can have a job, that you can do, you know what I mean? Those things you don't equate to when you're impoverished or when you're suffering or when you're abused. You don't understand it until you're free of it. So in order to even know normal, you have to experience it. You have to try it. People say, I hate sushi. Well, how many times have you had it? Well, I never had it. Well, then how do you know you hate it? You've never done it. And a lot of times, most of the time, people that say they don't like something, what happens when they try it? They like it. They're like, man, I can't believe I didn't try this. But isn't that life? It's easier to discount things that we fear or that we perceive incorrectly as bad or no good. But then the experience of doing it, what happens? You learn truth, and that's when you're awoke to the truth of how things really are. And then you can embrace it. So don't tell me how bad not smoking weed is until you go without it for a while and you learn how to be better in life. Learn things that are better than weed, that are sustainable, that aren't harmful. That's my recommendation. And those are internal things, first and foremost, and then you can learn the external things as well. They're there. There's lots of them. I practice them every day. Millions of people overcome the dysfunction and the self-destruction of addiction every year. Millions and millions. To say that once you're an addict, you're always an addict, I think is a fool thing to do. I think it's a fool thing to do. Because then you become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh, I'm just an addict. Oh, that's addict. You're excusing it and become learned helpless. Don't say that. Beat it, overcome it, change a new lifestyle. When you practice a new healthy lifestyle, after 5 to 7 years, your chances of relapse are minuscule. Less than a person that never had addiction. So we know absolutely without question that if you resolve the underlying issues, the abuses, the neglects, the overindulgence, the unmet needs, love, attention, belonging, safety, and security, all of those things, if you address all that stuff, if you resolve those things to a reasonable degree to get acceptance to them and to move on and to allow yourself to grow, not just physically, but psychologically, mentally, you can find contentment, you can find peace of mind, prosperity, self-esteem,